Welcome in, everybody, to In Off the Bench podcast. My name is Jim Cross. We got a special early morning episode, but we're going to do something a little different. We got a couple of men on here who've really inspired me and want to bring on, share their journey, what they got going on. Obviously, In Off the Bench is sponsored by Jesus One Apparel. And with that, we got Matt Palmer, who, told me the story behind the brand. And I really feel like the listeners need to know, what really inspired him to do that and what the message is of Jesus One, as well as Tanner Allen. Everybody knows we started this podcast really following Cameron James, and it just really broke out from the 20 to 2021 season. And Tanner Allen was a big part of that. Even cut my hair like him, trying to stay young and youthful with the baseball players. And so we're going to see what he's going up to today. But Matt, man, I want to start with you. Introduce yourself first, man. Like, where are you from?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Jim. It's been great to get to know you. Tanner, good to meet you today. We live in Phoenix, Arizona. Our facility is based out of downtown Phoenix. I've been married for almost 23 years. Me and my wife, Tristan, have 3 kids. All 3 are in college athletics, so we get to live a pretty busy life, traveling all over the place. We've got a 22-year-old, 20-year-old, and a 19-year-old, Braden, Ryan, and Maddie. And man, what a blessing it has been to cheerlead them and be there at all the things that we can possibly be at. So that's the family side of things. Man, God has been faithful in our lives when we weren't pursuing what God had for our lives. And it's been amazing to see what's happened the last decade when our family has really been sold out to follow Jesus and surrender to God's will. Jesus One Apparel, I think you wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the story. This was never supposed to be a thing. Like, we were just giving shirts out that said Jesus One in our local ministry in Phoenix. And the goal was just to start conversations about Jesus, to give coaches and athletes a way to wear something that hopefully sparks something. And that was it. Then fast forward into 2023, I served the San Francisco Giants, and a good friend of mine, Cale Garrison, serves the Texas Rangers. And we had an idea going into spring that we would do the shirts in the team colors so that they would blend in with the facility, but the message would stand out, hoping that it would just spark conversation. And then the other thought was, when you get moved up or down, and if I didn't know anybody and I'm in the weight room in AA and I just arrived and I see Tanner wearing a Jesus One shirt and I'm a believer, it just gave me some way to identify. So that was simply it. We gave away 100 shirts to each group. The Rangers came back and actually purchased some more, which was a whole wild concept in itself. And then fast forward to September of 23, a kid named Evan Carter got called up. On his call-up day, he wore the shirt that he had worn every day for BP, which happened to be the shirt we gave him in spring training.
Which is crazy. I picked this one to wear, and I absolutely had no idea that you were going to say that. So that's wild in itself.
That's the design. So again, just a shirt that he'd worn every day, and it was his way to express his faith. And the Rangers posted all of the pictures of his call-up day with him wearing the shirt. And, as God would have it, we had this little website up in Phoenix that did literally nothing. It was probably more of a pain to our partner and our vendor than it was anything. But it was there, and it was there right when it needed to be. So that weekend when Evan got called up, we had a bunch of traffic come through our website because the commentary on the social media post was a little bit about Evan and Evan, looking forward to Evan being a Ranger. But there was just a lot of commentary about where do we get that shirt? Where do we get that shirt? So that weekend we had some interesting traffic, and then we didn't know really what to expect from there. A couple weeks later, his agency reached out. We put together a partnership with Evan and his wife Kaylin for that design that you're wearing. And then the program was that a third of the proceeds went to three different groups: his church in Johnson City, Tennessee, his baseball program in Elizabethton, and then our local ministry in Phoenix. So we launched this project with him from October 7th to November 30th, 2023. We sold more than 7,000 shirts and raised $35,000 for each group. And we're like, what is God doing through this?
Wow.
And obviously,
that's the inconvenience, or just a coincidence. Just a little coincidence, right?
The crazy thing is that the Rangers end up winning the World Series. It's in Phoenix. It's against the Diamondbacks. You connect all these things that just don't make any sense, but they do. So, at that point, we start trying to build some relationships and add some partnerships. And fast forward to the summer, we got to work with the guys at Ohio State through their championship run. That was a blessing. And then kind of one day at a time right now, our whole mission, if I were to simplify it after that whole long-winded story, to simplify it, our mission is to start conversations about Jesus, simply that. And secondarily, we've been able to find a way to make an impact for kingdom-minded causes or ministries around the country. And in 18 months, we've raised more than $345,000, which is Ephesians 3:20 says that God can do immeasurably more than we might ever ask or imagine. And I don't know anything else in my life that is like a stronger evidence of that verse with this whole program.
Yeah, man, that's why I wanted you to share. That's absolutely awesome. And as Tanner was just laughing about it, was, something that was an inconvenience, seemed like, like an accident, but it's really cool. And the way God worked and showed it, you talk about the Rangers, but even Ohio State, because that's what brought me onto it. And so to see those guys on the biggest stage wearing those shirts, getting the conversation started it's awesome. So it's amazing to see what guys are doing just by a simple message on a shirt. Like I told you, the first weekend I wore it into a baseball stadium, man, 30 people. Happened just this past weekend in Knoxville. As soon as I showed up, like you said, people asking where could they get the shirt as well. But Tanner, I want to come to you for a minute, man. Obviously followed you through baseball, but following you on social media, seeing that you've been doing way more, understanding the use of your platform. You have an opportunity, people know who you are, to be able to speak the words and be the hands and feet of Jesus. So talk about what you got going on right now.
Yeah, man. So clearly, I'm done playing baseball. I'm retired, man, and I'm gonna tell you a cool story about it here in a second. But mainly, what I got going is this is how my mind was working. For 25 years, I guess you could say, I was running wide open with the devil, wide open. And don't get me wrong, I was putting on a front, as in, did I go to church? Oh yeah, I went to church. Did I believe in God? Oh yeah, I believed in it. I believe in Jesus. Oh yeah, I believed in it. But I can remember even being at Mississippi State and having a big game and then having an interview after the game and trying to give God all the credit and everybody be like, oh, what a great guy, great guy. Then I'd be downtown in the district 2 hours later getting hammered chasing girls, you know. So I wasn't really living the way I was talking. So here lately, going into this past year in baseball, I'm kind of getting older. I'm getting up there and I'm like, man, I just, this minor league lifestyle is not something that I want to keep doing. So I prayed. I said, Lord, if this ain't for me, get me out of it. 4 months later, TA, man, we love you, dude, but we got to move on. Hey, guys, no hard feelings. No hard feelings. I understand how the business works. No hard feelings. And in a weird way, I've never had so much pressure take it off my chest, knowing that I don't have to do the minor league grind anymore, man. I just didn't like it. I did not like it. And to be honest with you, if I would have seen a Jesus One shirt come through the locker room in Pensacola with some of our guys wore it, that would have been the most encouraging sign to me, because there's minor league and all sports are so godless. It's just the truth right now. It is so godless, and we're doing our best to try to keep them involved in it. And that would have gave me the biggest kind of sense of hope to see that. So that's a really cool idea. But back to what I've got going is, like I said, man, I ran for the devil 25 years. And while doing that, I know for a fact I've encouraged hundreds of thousands of people to run with the devil too. So I believe that now I got saved this past year, or in January 21st, actually. And I believe now I'm going to use my platform that I still have to run wide open for Jesus and lead people to Jesus. So that's what I've been doing, man. I've been doing that through hunting, fishing, speaking at high schools, speaking to churches, speaking at events, all kind of things, man. I posted a tweet. Check this, 'cause this is pretty cool. I posted a tweet a couple weeks ago about nerds in baseball, and it kind of blew up on me. And I had a
I
guy.
kind of felt like you might have been talking about me. I ain't a nerd, but I didn't play baseball. So
Well, but I got a lot of hate, and most of the hate was from the nerds, which is okay. I understand. But a guy DM me on Twitter, and I'm gonna have to just apologize for this little curse word, but he said, "You're a bum ass Christian." And I DM'd him back and said, Jesus loves you. And man, we jumped into a conversation for like 20 straight minutes. And he ended up opening up to me about why he was so hurt and why he didn't believe in religion and stuff. And I was able to open up to him about why he needs to. And that was, one little bitty thing, especially like the older I get, the more I see God's fingerprints and how I try to see things through God's eyes. And the number one thing I see now when people come at me and try to attack me on Twitter or whatever, or in person, or, you're not going to make everybody happy. The number one thing I think is like, you don't repay evil with evil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you responded in the way that Jesus teaches us, and people don't know how to respond then because they expected you to come back negatively. They were looking at it. And so it's I don't know if you've watched The Chosen, but that's the way that show depicts it, and that's the way I honestly could see it going. Like Jesus just mind blowing people with doing stuff that they don't expect, and then you doing that and telling that, and so obviously it just took a complete turn. And I want to say something while I have the opportunity, because we were talking about we're going to let God take this wherever, but you were talking about in the locker room. That was the very essence of why I struggled through my high school years, Tanner, because I could go to church on Sunday, but God wasn't in our locker room, and I wanted to be cool. So I was not going to have, those two be the same thing. They were going to be separate. I was going to have two different lives. And that's why I struggled for a long time trying to identify with one or the other, because, it wasn't quote unquote cool to follow God. And so, and that's why I love what, Matt has going on, because I think people for the longest were ashamed to say that they follow Jesus. I think there are people who truly have those relationships, but because it's not fitting within the lifestyle of sports, they don't want to continue to pursue, like you said, and run arms wide open. So I think the more people that come open, especially something as simple as a t-shirt, can build those relationships and start something, and change the dynamic and the narrative of what's cool and uncool.
A lot of people, whether you know it or not, believe they do. But like you said, a lot of them, especially nowadays, are really quiet about it. Because like I said, you can wear that sweatshirt, you guys wear this, I wear this one now, and it's a conversation starter. I can't tell you, like you said, so many people be like, hey, I like that shirt. Even people I think that would never, ever have anything to say about it. You know what I mean? But it's like as soon as they see you not being ashamed, it's like, hey, it's my time to not be ashamed. If he's doing it, I'm definitely going to do it. You know what I mean? And it's funny how that ripple just keeps building. And I believe that's what we got to do.
You specifically, Tanner, like, you know what you mean to people in the state of Mississippi, not even just Starkville. And so, man, like for you to wear it, the young people see it and they say, man, Tanner Allen, follows Jesus. So it's such a big thing. And Matt has opened up these doors, man. When I see these teams, not just baseball, in different sports, wearing it and representing, it's just something that 20 years ago when I played was not even thought of. And especially in a day and age where the woke culture wants to go the opposite way, but yet, Christians speaking out. So I just, Matt, and maybe you want to touch more on that, because like you got different athletes that I'm seeing you put on social media every day that are, man, they're wearing them into the stadiums, into big games. We talked about it with Ohio State, but I'm seeing it more and more just with all sports.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really interesting copycat kind of behavior, and it's a copycat that's probably, in my opinion, way more effective and better than anything. Because I can relate a lot to Tanner. He said he ran with the devil for 25 years. I feel like I did the same thing, and I think my story is more like Jonah, where God was calling me one way, and I paid to keep running the other direction for year after year after year, and then finally Jonah 2:7 says, "As I was losing everything, I remembered the Lord."
Bang.
And that's my life. Like I had everything on the outside look great, family, kids, job, all the stuff, except everything on the inside was on fire. And until I actually surrendered, I think there's a Grand Canyon size difference between being saved like I was as a little kid and being surrendered to Jesus at 33 years old. For me,
I think it's crazy you said that. I had a message that I heard one time when I was stationed out in San Diego, and he literally spoke to that. He goes, I don't actually prefer the word saying I'm saved. He said, I prefer to say I surrender my life to Christ. And so it's interesting that because there's a massive difference.
You're right. You're right. You're right. I love that, man. Because like, let's be real here. When you make the decision to surrender your life to Jesus, it's not a very easy road to go down. It is a very narrow road, and it's going to cost something. But what I'm trying to figure out in my life right now is this right here. Tanner has always been the person, this is how I am, that if there's something that needs to get done, I'm doing it. If there's, you know, any kind of challenge in my way, I'm going to attack it head on, whether it be any kind of, relationship or getting stuff to a problem, like a conflict with somebody, just trying to figure out where I want to go play baseball, my baseball career, all that stuff. I'm going to be in charge. I'll handle it because that's just how competitive I am, but now I'm into a point in my life to where I'm like, you know what? I can clearly see where it has gotten me. God, wherever you want me to do, send me in that direction. Send me there. Send me there. And when you think that way, man, so much pressure's off your shoulders. Comes right off your shoulders. It's like I've been in control and tried to do my own thing, man. It's finally like, God's like, are you tired of this yet? Are you tired of it? Are you tired of it? And and sometimes I always question like what he's doing in my life. Like for instance, baseball is gone. I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, what are you doing? You took me out of baseball. What's going on? And then I slow down and I'm like, hold on. I don't know what he's doing, but I know what he's done.
Well, I'm happy for you because Tanner, you are doing so much better. One of the things that I've found, and you can do it with anything in life, but I've really found they go hand in hand, is being in the military and then talking to athletes. You identify for so long with a certain career that's who you think you are. That's, what you identify as. You're a baseball player, not even a child of God. And same thing with being in the military. And when that ends, so many struggles. That's actually when my wife teaches at the addiction center. That's actually a big reason for a lot of people going down the road of addiction because they can't figure out who they are. So for you, in a short span after baseball's over, to know who you are and know your worth is so huge because a lot of guys just really struggle with that. I myself, after military was over, I mean, we're talking about 3 to 5 year span where I was wandering in the desert and never in a million years. We talked about it when you came on before. Like, I didn't think it was going to be a sports podcast with the opportunity to talk to all these athletes. And even still, it's modified. Our views and listens are down because I have now shaped and molded this to follow after God. And my wife is just like, keep following the road. It's not going to be the one that's popular or for everybody, but just keep doing it. And what it's done is, as opposed to worried about how many people are watching or listening, I'm getting the opportunity to talk to college young men and women and through their journey and help them in any way I can. So God's, that you see the graphic, God's plan and your plan, and yours is straight and it's the curvy, like that's the realistic thing. But if you're willing to follow it, it's obviously worth it.
You're right. I have lived outside of God's will, and He has been unbelievably merciful to me. Man, I was living out of His will, and He allowed me, and He gave us a 2021 national championship, and I was living out of His will. Man, we serve an unbelievable God. I can't even wrap my mind around it. Imagine loving somebody so much, and they keep slapping you in the face, 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 and then giving you something you dreamed of because they love you that much. Now, the way my mind is working, I'm like, well, I've seen how He's blessed me when I didn't live in His will. I'm going to live in His will now. Let's see how that goes. I'm going to do my best to live in His will. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be all sunshine and roses.
Well, I'm glad you came out like fire like this because Tanner, I tell you, I talked to Matt before this, last week, and I said I'll be interested to see, Tanner's approach because all the things that you've said are things that I heard. Obviously, I only watched you play baseball, but the fact that you owned it because, like you said, I always thought of it like this. We were seeing your highlight film. We weren't seeing the highlight reel. We weren't seeing the game film, right? And the game film will expose a lot on everybody. And like you said, when you pull back that curtain, you may see something that you don't want. And I think ultimately what people don't understand, and Matt, you were talking about this, and I think ultimately people may see that and think that everything's good and you're happy, but they don't know how unhappy and empty you are because when you're not chasing after God, no matter how much you accomplish, I feel like, at the end of the day, it just feels like something's missing. And, once you fill that void, it changes everything. And so, Matt, bringing it back to you, because this isn't about you. You talked about the ministries and everything and the money, so for those who don't know, so we set it up, right? We got the LSU, the Tennessee, the Ole Miss shirts going. Explain the percentage and how that works so they know.
Oh, with your specific ambassador
Yeah.
program. So we've got
because I'm pushing the apparel and I want people to know like none of it's coming to me.
Yeah. So each person that orders through your code is going to get a discount of 15%, and then we're going to give 15% of all the total sales that come in through your code, your ambassador code, to a ministry or cause that we both agree upon. There, we do a little vetting on the ministries to make sure that there's nothing strange behind the scenes. Because
I mean, think about that, Tanner. Like, what company do you know is willing to take 30% off the top?
I was literally just doing the math right there. That's man. My dad told me about a book I need to read, and it was about a businessman whose business fell completely apart, and it's a true story. And then he turned the tithe backwards, as in he gave 90% and kept 10, and God completely restored it. So that is a very big tip of your hat to you, Mr. Matt. That's awesome. Like, I'm sitting there thinking, I was sitting there, my business mind's rolling. I'm like, man, this guy's giving 30% away. That's unbelievable.
Well,
when he first told me that, I didn't know it was going to be 15 and 15. I thought that the code just let them know that they would get the 15% would go to whatever the ministry was. When he said it's the 15% discount too, it's like my mind was blown too. I was like, that's big time.
But the Lord tells us to test him. Test him. Literally, test me. He is telling us to test him with our giving and see what happens.
And what's huge, Tanner, and you may not know that I told Matt what was crazy was we just lost our biggest sponsor, not because of anything we did. They had a change in ownership. And so we lost that check that was coming every month. But we brought in Matt and we don't get a check, but I feel more fulfilled now not getting the check, but seeing what the Jesus One Apparel is doing more so than the Memphis City Design and seeing it in off the bench on people's shirts. Yeah, that was cool to have our logo, running around and promoting the podcast, but nothing compared to promoting Jesus.
No doubt.
It's been, you asked me a minute ago, and I don't think I really answered your question, but to see, I think the dominoes started, it was like Oklahoma State, Aiden Miola from Oklahoma State reached out and said, hey, we want to do something similar to what they did. That was in like early January. And then since Oklahoma State did that project with us, like the amount of different places that have reached out, a lot of them like are recognizable schools, a lot of schools you've never heard of, a lot of club programs you've never heard of. And the thing that is most encouraging to me, whether it's Tennessee or Ole Miss or a school you've never heard of, you know what matters? Like every single person in every program in that community matters, and they all matter the same. Now, the MLB clubhouses and the Power Four schools, that's a little more attractive maybe to the outside world. But I think I find the most encouragement, like literally every conversation matters. And one of the things that I've started to realize, like, again, Tanner, you asked me this earlier, like how did this start? Like this literally, God dropped this in our lap and we kept just trying to figure out what's next. And this was never a part of the plan. If you would have told me 2 years ago that this is what I'm doing with my life, I would have questioned your sanity, right? Like, what are we talking about? But here we are. And what I've come to discover, like this is a message no different than yours on your hoodie there. Like it's in your face without being in your face.
Exactly.
Like it's here if you want to engage with it. If not, then that's just maybe another seed planted, and who knows what happens with that. That's not my job. Like we're in the people business, and God's in the glory business.
Hey, look, I love that. I'm in the people business. God's in the glory business. And hey, look, that those two things right there get it a long ways, man. And I'm trying to learn those right now.
And I think it's cool because all three of us are in a place that we didn't see, right? Because you just talked about that, Matt. I saw Tanner go into the big leagues, right? As far as me,
everybody did
my military career, like, and so all of us are in a different track, and that's what I was talking about with God's plan versus our plan. But we're gonna be able to do bigger and better things, like you said, for His glory. So it's really cool to see. But before we wrap up, Tanner, like I've seen the pictures you were talking about, talking at different places. How do you go about? Did they reach out to you, or how are you going around? Because I mean, I've seen you at a bunch of different places.
Yeah, man. So I'm going everywhere, really, and honestly, I'm trying to branch out to a little bit bigger events. And but I'm still doing a lot of high schools, a lot of churches, a lot of smaller events. But I'm really trying to branch out a little bit. So I've got a manager now, and we're actually kicking up all kind of new things. We got all kind of new things coming, and a podcast is one of them, and then big speaking events is another. And then we actually, another big thing, a big problem that I'm trying to tackle on is social media has given a platform to every Tom, Dick, and Harry to teach these kids how to play baseball the right way. Well, I'm about to start doing it my way, and showing them, because I've lived their dream. You know what I mean? I have lived their dream. You want to learn from somebody who learned their stuff from YouTube, or you want to learn from somebody that's been down the road that you want to go down and had the most success. So I'm starting to create just a little baseball guide tutorial on how the little things matter that made me. I'm 5'10" and a half, 195 pounds. I'm not Aaron Judge. I don't look like Mike Stanton, but I played baseball for a long time at the highest levels, right? So I'm trying to help these young men learn the game the right way. So that's coming soon too. But mainly on the speaking events, man, you just shoot me a message on Instagram, Twitter, and then I'll probably put you in connection with my manager. And like I said, only reason I needed one really, dude, is, man, I don't know how to schedule. I'll be in Daphne one day, and the next day I have to be in Vicksburg. I'm like, man, I got to drive 4 or 5 hours. Like, this is
Yeah, hey,
unbelievable.
I understand it because Katie Hill. I'm sure you're familiar with him. Got his leg amputated at Ole Miss football. He was speaking, but his mom had to start managing for him and doing all that. And that's why I know that you doing that will be successful, because I've watched him get to go around the country doing it. And y'all obviously have two completely different stories. And obviously he's a football player, you being a baseball player. So a lot of opportunity for you to go around and do that. And especially when you go, I see you doing the student ones. And like I said, you have, a platform, people know who you are, and it's a big deal. And so an opportunity, because they'll listen, I come up there, there's a 50-50 chance on maybe they listen. Tanner comes up there, they're going to listen. But I do, hey, Matt, this isn't part of the show, but I do gotta come at Tanner because of his tweet, right? Like, so I will say this. So you look at our pick'em this week, Tanner, and I went against 4 college baseball players we had on. And anyway, none of them even went 500, and I went 7-1. And the reason is I may have not played baseball, but when you watch as much and interview as many people as I do, you learn a lot.
You learn a lot. Hey,
Y'all
look,
don't
I'll
try to
tell
teach
you.
anybody how to play, though.
I'm going to tell you a real quick story before I leave on analytics, all right? And I'm going to tell you how it could have killed my career. All right, so my sophomore year at Mississippi State, I'm coming off a freshman All-American year. I'm a big man on campus. Everybody knows who I am. I think I've got a little fame. I'm a pretty good player, right? Come out, first weekend national player of the week. I'm like, man, this is going to be a great year. After that weekend, it went straight downhill. And I was struggling, man, bad. Well, I struggled. I was hitting like 220. Coach bumped me down to the 7-hole. And then one week, we started the week. We had a midweek game, then we were going to Tennessee. And Coach brought me in the locker into his office. And this is Coach Lamonis brought me in his office. And he said, TA, you're struggling real bad right now. I'm sitting there thinking, like, man, he's about to tell me he's about to put me on the bench. This is going to be embarrassing. You know what I mean? It's like, TA, I know you're grinding. I know you're struggling, Bubs. He said, I just felt like I needed to bring you in here to tell you this. The analytics, everything, every analytic, all the baseball people, these coaches, this fan base thinks I need to put you on the bench. But I'm going to tell you this right now. You're my first baseman, and you're my 3-hole hitter. I believe in you. I'm ride or die with you. So get in there with Coach Gotro and figure it out, because I know you've been there and I know you can do it. I went into Coach Goat's office. He ripped me a new one too. Hey, look, last year's over with. We need you this year. You're not helping us win. We got to figure this out. They gave me some tough love, but they had my back, and they did it because they loved me. That year I finished an All-American, 350.
And I will say something, because you brought that up, Matt, because you talked about being the father of college athletes. Tanner, I tell you what I also learned thinking about, the coaches having faith in you. I've met so many, baseball parents. Obviously, I connect a lot with the dads. And I think specifically, Greg James, and he was continually pouring faith into his kids. Obviously, the Christian faith in general, but obviously faith that he just believed in them, and he was never hard on them. He was there to support them. And so, Matt, I know with you having multiple kids out there doing it, man, I can just tell with the kind of man you are, they're definitely probably appreciative of everything you do, because it's tough, man. Tanner talking about the grind it is. And if you don't have a support system, it can be very lonely times.
It can be.
Well, it's definitely lonely. I'm thankful I went through it as an athlete first, and I hopefully was able to learn a lot. The thing that was my biggest enemy until God helped me fill like the hole in my heart. I was just insecure. So like my insecurity drove all of these extreme behaviors, right? So the insecurity was like it's a blessing and a curse, because the insecurity drives this like prove it mentality. And when you have prove it mentality, it's amazing on the field and the weight room. There's benefit, right, in competition. There's not benefit on a Friday night with your high school buddies at a party. That turned into some stupid, crazy things. But I'm thankful I went through it. I'm thankful I failed a lot. I'm thankful that my kids, that we have, our family is incredibly close. And I think the challenge as your kids go and grow and get out of the house, you go from being a fullback for your kids, which I really enjoy being a fullback for my kids, right? Block and tackle and like just try to create a path for them. And instantly when they move away, you go from fullback to consultant. And you got to be ready to adapt in that role, because they don't need the fullback anymore. They need the consultant. They need the role changes. And the one thing that Tristan and I made a commitment, my wife and I made a commitment early on, like we're just going to pursue the things that matter to them, and we're going to show up in places that we need to be. And it might be incredibly inconvenient sometimes, but we're going to be there, and we're going to keep showing up. And whether they have a good day, bad day, like we're there for a hug and a dinner and whatever else God has in store.
Yeah, and I was always told that they may not show it in real time, right? But they're so appreciative, and I think it's huge. And so, yeah, I wanted to take that moment while we're giving the spotlight to the parents out there who, man, it's crazy when you say you'll figure it out, like whether it's work or just the navigation of making it all happen in general. I see these parents will do anything to support their kids, and it's awesome, man. Like I can't commend them enough. And I bring up Greg, Matt, because he would be going to every Mississippi State game that Tanner was at, obviously with Cameron, and somehow still going to his little sister's games in Jones, and then going to some minor league games at Keegan. And I was like, how do you do it? And he's like, I'll sleep afterward, work. I've figured it out. And it's like, and so it's pretty cool. But he's also someone who's deep in his faith and has been able to pour into me. And so he understands the grand picture of it all. But I greatly appreciate you men coming on. I want to give you all an opportunity to plug the handles, starting with you, Tanner, because I hope people will reach out to you and have you, come speak, because it's an opportunity. I love seeing the transformation. Obviously, like you said, you've been a hard worker, but maybe not working towards the exact goals that you wanted to, that you feel like you are now. So what are those handles so they can reach out to you?
Hey, hit me up on Twitter at Tanner_Allen10, Instagram Tanner Allen with 3 N's, and I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything else. That's mainly, and then I'm on TikTok, but that's
I commend
my
you for being able to handle Twitter. I finally deleted it. People say it's just the nastiest things. It's a tough world to be a Christian. So Tanner, don't get yourself in any trouble on there, man.
I'm gonna speak my mind. I apologize.
Matt, for you, man, how do they get a hold of Jesus One Apparel?
You can go to our website, JesusOneApparel.com. You can go to any socials where we are Jesus One Apparel on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go on there and look, just about any color scheme is out there. Some aren't, and Matt's working on them. I promise you. And it's really foundationally based on these athletes coming forward, and that's what you love to see, because if you see a new color pop up, that means athletes at that school have approached Matt and wanted to get shirts. So
and if there's something that we don't have out there, we have different teams and schools reaching out all the time to do some custom orders. That's an option. All that information's on the website, and we're happy to.
I got to get me some Jesus One apparel. I guess I'm gonna go get.
One of the color schemes I say just about every Mississippi State is not in the mix. Gotta make that happen. What's funny, Tanner, is he sent me my apparel that was just ordered, and it's Tennessee and Ole Miss, and they play each other this weekend. So I'm going to wear one to each, showing that I'm neutral because we got a ton of guests on each side. So I'm hoping no one will hate on me and the Jesus One message will absolutely work. But it's really funny on the timing because then next weekend I'm going to cover college gymnastics championship, and he's got me LSU and Oklahoma coming, and they're going against each other. So God's having fun laughing at this because they're coming in which these teams are playing.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
But I appreciate you, gentlemen. I hope that everybody reaches out. Just keep doing what you're doing. I'm, glad to call y'all friends, and definitely love seeing everything y'all are doing. And wish y'all a blessed rest of the week. And yeah, man, y'all are welcome to come back anytime.
Yeah, man, appreciate it, guys. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys having me on. If I could ever help either one of you, please don't hesitate to holler at me.
Absolutely. All right, Matt. Well, we will be back tonight, me and Daniel, to talk college baseball tonight. But in the meantime, remember, strong bodies, sharp minds, grit and grind all the time. We are out.